Just a light on, do you?
I don't know. What's this? Why is this not?
Wait, Bill, wait.
I have been in.
Really?
I think I might not have done both.
Restaurant. No, I don't know that. I certainly.
They're having trouble, not you.
You think?
I haven't been to a restaurant once.
Okay.
That's okay.
Well, you're looking and sounding awesome.
Right.
Okay, let's get
It's a
started.
little hard for me to tell.
I'm
and,
asking that all of our Zoom
I mean,
attendees.
I think she is a good
yourself on
worker, but I also think,
have a part of
I don't know, Art, I don't know her that well, but I also
You have a
feel
part
she's
of
only going
the,
to work so much.
someone here. As you have a part of the meeting, I will ask you to unmute and participate. So welcome. I'm muted. Yes.
I unmuted you. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. We're having some technology issues, but I think we're good now. So welcome to the Rotary Club of Norfolk. I'm pleased that we're having our first hybrid meeting. We have some folks here at Norfolk Botanical Gardens, and we also have folks on Zoom. So first, I would ask Chuck Spence to unmute and lead us in song.
Okay, we'll begin with the four-way test. Can we say that it's the truth and fair to all concerned? Will it serve to friendships learn? If it's beneficial to, and we're sure that we've done our best, then we'll know that we in Rotary will have passed the four-way test. And then the other book flapper, table slapper, whatever, is the grand old flag. If you have your book, it's number 80. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace make way. You're the hooray.
Chuck, thank you very much. Thanks, Chuck. And now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships, and will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And will it be fun?
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
And now,
Invocation by Jim Baker.
Heavenly Father, as we come together today as Rotarians, thanks for the good gifts.
Thanks for the good gifts that you give us.
We ask your guidance in our
We
lives.
ask your guidance in our lives.
Love
We
will
pray that your love will live among us.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for
allowing our president to go over the food problem. And we'd also like to thank Jim Kidd for all the hard work that he's doing in keeping this organization really roaring along for the past several months. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Jim.
Mute yourself. Now you.
Do we have Joe Massey?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, Joe, anything on a visitation report?
I have not heard a thing, but I'll open it up to the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone know of any Rotarians who could use our assistance? Guests. I know that Singer has a couple of guests joining us that were on the trip with her. So that
Jim, you're muted.
We've lost you, Jim.
All right, I'm back to being unmuted.
There you go.
Okay. Introduction of guests. If anyone has any guests that they'd like to let us know about, now's a good time for that. Okay, thanks. Since this is the first, one other thing. Our school of the week is Chesterfield Academy. And we will be presenting our guests with or our guest speakers with a book to be presented to Chesterfield. This is our first meeting of the month, so we have some anniversaries and birthdays to celebrate. Let's do birthdays first. We have Bruce Wilcox on October 8th. We have Carlisle Broughton on October 15th, Bill Davis on October 20th, Bob Healy on the 23rd, Skip Burton on the 27th, Alan Nelson was on the 1st, Jim Sell was also on the 1st, Jerome Adamson was on the 2nd, and Gus Stuhlreier is tomorrow on October 7th. If you could all join me, Chuck, would you mind leading us in happy birthday?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks, Chuck. We also have some wedding anniversaries. We have Will and Cecilia King celebrating 54 years on the 29th. We have on the 24th of October, we actually have 2 anniversaries, each of which are 56 years. We have Ray and Jamie Moses on the 24th and Susan and Alan Dodd also on the 24th, 56 years for each of them. On the 12th of October, we have Stephen and Rebecca Jones, 24 years. On the 10th of October, we have Johnny and Irene Blake with 17 years. And me and my wife actually celebrated this past weekend our 34-year anniversary. So congratulations to all. We also have a few, we have some Rotary anniversaries. We have Carintha Carey, 1 year. We have Sally Hartman, 13 years. We have Sharon Laderberg, 14 years. We have Kelly Stefanko, 5 years. Jeff Wells, 40 years. And Bill Moore, 21 years. So a couple of things we just want to, for club business that we just want to talk about. First is our next service project is this coming Saturday. We will be meeting at 10 o'clock at the food bank on Tidewater Drive. We'll be there from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. I will tell you that the food bank has been a wonderful partner with us, during this pandemic. It's an organization that can use our help, that appreciates our help, and allows us to do some good works while getting to see fellow Rotarians. So, my ask of you is that you strongly consider participating in some of these events. There is a sign up link on the club webpage. If you have any questions at all or are having any difficulty, feel free to either give myself or Walt Sobek a ring and we'll get you signed up. Also wanted to let you know that there's a group that is putting together a Bob Latimer Hot Dog Day. So expect a little bit more information on that. It'll be sometime in December. So that is still in the early planning stages, but just wanted to let you know about that. One other thing that I'm just going to ask Jason Drain to talk to us a little bit about is as an alternate fundraiser, there's a committee has had a couple of meetings, and I just wanted to have Jason give us a little flavor for what that might look like. So Jason, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to talk a little bit about a fundraiser. So as you know, with the impact that we've had from a COVID perspective and our ability to gather in places, it definitely affected our two main fundraisers that we normally do, the Suds and Buds and Growl Fest. So we're looking at other alternatives of what we could do potentially more of in a virtual setting. So we did a little bit of research and reached out to some folks that have had really good success with this in the past, and it's an online auction. So we would work to get that scheduled and have everything set up for an online auction, with the drawing coming out sometime in the February timeframe. We're using a platform. It's an online platform, which is a zero cost to our club. It's called Bidding Owl, like bidding on an item, owl like the bird, biddingowl.com. And the only fees associated with that would be a 5% fee of any money that we raised through this auction. So I know myself, Jim, and Jeff, we were meeting and kind of coming up with some ideas around some different packages. So one of the things that we would ask is anybody that has any items that they would like to donate for the auction, or if they have any connections, or if they have professional services that they would like to donate for the auction, please contact myself, Jeff, or Jim, and we will get in contact with you and discuss what you may have available. We're also going to be reaching out to other places inside the community to come up with folks that may want to donate certain items that we can auction off. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jim.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jason. There will be a lot more information coming out on that. I also wanted to just real quickly mention that that the Hartmans are also celebrating their 38th anniversary on October 9th. So congratulations. One other thing, just wanted to mention, on October 24th, there's going to be a polio telethon, a Rotary International polio telethon that's going to be held on that day. I will include more additional information on that in my president's message that'll come out later this week or over the weekend. So October 24th, there's an online Rotary International telethon for polio. And while we're on the subject of polio. This is polio month for Rotary. And I wanted to kill two birds with one stone. One is I'd like to raise a little bit of money for polio. And second, I would like to get you guys in the mode of bidding on something. So hold that thought. I'm auctioning off, made by your president, and you probably can't see it, but it's a key lime cheesecake, personally made, and I would like to open the floor to bidding. I will tell you that I have an opening bid from Jeff Wells at $25. So do I have 30? Cy Grandy, $30. Do I have 35? Feel free to chime in from Zoom World. Cy Grandy just said 50, so it's $50 for the key lime cheesecake. Do I have 55?
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes.
Is it from scratch or is it a mix?
It is from scratch. This is $60. We have $60. Do I have 65? 65. Anyone online?
He makes the best cheesecakes in this area.
Okay, Cy Grandy just claimed that I make the best cheesecakes in the area. I don't know if that's fair or true, but let's go with it.
I'll go 70.
We have 70. $70. Do we have 75? 75 from Cy Grandy. Do I have 80? $80. Key lime cheesecake. It doesn't get much better. From scratch. We have
This is Gus. I'll go 100.
Gus goes 100. Gus is upping the ante. Love it. Love it. Who wants to compete with Gus? Do I have 105? Do I have 105? $105. The best key lime cheesecake you're ever going to have. Anyone?
I'll do it.
Who is that? Joe Massey?
Yeah, 105.
$105.
But on one condition.
I'll deliver it.
No, it's got to be consumed today in that room.
Ooh. Okay, Michael said that we can make that happen. So we have 105. Who wants it? Who wants to now compete with Judge Joe? Do I have 110? Do I have 110? Anyone?
I bet you're not going to get any bids from the floor.
Yeah. Well, that's one way to stifle the competition, Joe. I love it. Anyone else in Zoom world? $105. 105 going once. 105 going twice. Joe Massey, sold to you for $105. Thank you. And Joe, I'm very willing to deliver that to you.
No. It's got to be eaten by the people there.
Okay, all right. We will make that happen. We will make that happen. Okay. All right. Thank you. You know, if anyone else during the month, specifically the month of October, because it is polio month, if you would like to auction something off for the good of polio, we're happy to entertain that. Just give us a heads up that you would like to do that, and we'll make sure we have time for you. Our Vice President in charge of programs is Lori Harrison. And so, Lori, I'm going to give you the floor to kick off our program. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Michael. Fines and happy bucks. It goes without saying that if you had a birthday, that we expect either $1 per year or $5. We have the list of you. So thank you very much for in advance for donating. I would like to give some happy bucks for three things. One is I think it's great that we're doing a hybrid meeting. When I look at the number of people who are either online or here, this is one of the bigger meetings we've had in a while, and I sincerely appreciate that. I also have happy bucks for my 34th anniversary, which was this past weekend. And also the Army team is now 3-1. So I do appreciate that. Any other happy bucks that we have?
President Jim, this is Jason. I would suggest maybe the folks that are going to partake of that cheesecake in your room have to pay a $5 plating fee.
So if whoever didn't hear, Jason's suggestion was that everyone who partakes of the cheesecake pays a $5 plating fee. I think that's fair to all concerned. So, okay, thank you, Jason. Appreciate that. And by the way, Jason, for doing that, you also are going to contribute $5 for turning in your fellow Rotarians. But I appreciate your grit.
With pleasure.
Okay. Anyone else with some happy bucks? Michael.
So I received a grimy envelope in my box here at work, and I discovered why it was grimy, because it was from a horticulturalist who works here. And inside was a letter, and I'm going to read it. Michael, I'm cleaning out my late parents' house up in Maine. I came across this piece of Rotary history that I thought you might find interesting. My father was very active as a club president, 2-time Paul Harris Fellow, etc., and he loved kids. I don't know whether or not yours is a quote singing club, but I hope you enjoy this piece of Rotary Club memorabilia. P.S. No need.
I think it's in, but at least you got in.
The Rotary Club. And it goes back to, I believe, it is 1966. So I sent her a nice thank you note saying, yes, in fact, we are a singing club, and I'm happy that we're a singing club, and I love this little piece of Rotary.
That's very cool.
Some happy bucks for that. And I'll also share some happy bucks for Joey and Seeger, who joined us on the trip they're going to share today, and how wonderful it was to get to know them even more than I already knew them through Rotary. It was a fantastic experience, and I can't wait for all of us to get to travel again. So that's my happy bucks.
Okay, thank you. So if you could you hear what Michael was saying online? Okay, Michael was giving happy bucks. He had a friend from, basically a family friend who had uncovered while going through some of their parents' artifacts. They found a 1966 Rotary songbook, and she was nice enough to send it to him. So now we have something to compare our current songbook to. Yes.
I think I know the person that donated it.
Yes.
And if it's who I think it is, I'll contribute $5.
Okay. So.
Super Ag.
I do.
Yep, Super Ag, who's a horticulturalist here at the garden, cleaning out her dad's house in Maine, came across it.
Okay.
And I'll leave it here for anyone looking.
Okay. So Sigger added $5 to it because Sigger knows the person who donated it to us. So that's great. Anyone else?
I'll give happy bucks for a great trip up to see my son's new house up in Alexandria a few weeks ago. Great trip.
That's wonderful. I'm sorry.
Tom Ambler.
Oh, Tom, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I will give 10 happy bucks. I think I owe some from the past too, so I'm going to write a big check. This is Marty. My son closed on his house on Wednesday, and he's moving back to Norfolk.
Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful. And did I see anyone else? Irene O'Brien?
Yes, we just got a new addition to our family, a right now 14-month-old puppy. So I'll be donating some happy bucks for what I might regret. I did not realize, I forgot what a puppy was like. In a couple months, maybe we'll get sleep again.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Lorna.
My sister races horses, and it's been very lonely at the track. And of course, we can't cheer, but Sunday night, her horse won first in the first race. So as a family, we all watch on Zoom and we watch the horse race. And Papa's calling once.
All right, all right. So for those who couldn't hear, Lorna announced that her sister's horse won first place in a horse race on Sunday night, and it was watched by the whole family via Zoom. So that's pretty cool. I want to just add a little bit of happy bucks also. I see Greg Bachheim is here. One of the things that my wife and I did over the weekend was we actually strolled through the Virginia Zoo. So we had a wonderful time, and you know, it's that is truly one of Norfolk's treasures, along with you know, where we are, the Norfolk Botanical Garden. So any other happy bucks? All right, so now I'm going to turn it over. Excuse me, I'm going to turn it over to Lori Harrison.
Okay, to me, here's, or whatever. Today's Rotarian of the Day is Michael Desplaines. Michael joined Rotary in 2014. He loves what Rotary does around the world, and he had a chance to go to India in February of 2000 for a month as a group study exchange fellow through the Rotary Foundation. So cool. You should do a slideshow on that one day. And a fun fact is that he spoke French before he spoke English. So we're looking forward to the presentation, and Mike will introduce Joey and Seeger. Thanks.
Thanks, Lori. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Joey Rothgary, a native of Norfolk. She graduated from Norfolk Catholic High School. She went on to become a loyal Virginia Tech Hokie. After a 36-year career with the American Red Cross, she retired in 2011. She's been an active Norfolk Master Gardener with a special interest in trees. Her compatriot on this journey, Seeger Whitaker. She's a native of Indianapolis. She has 2 degrees from UNC Chapel Hill. She retired also in 2011 as a senior vice president from SunTrust, where she was a commercial banker. I find that so hard to believe, Seeger. Like, as a bank, you're such a nice person. How did you like get people to, when they wouldn't pay you back, to pay you back?
The most important thing to know is before I was a banker, I was a social worker who took kids away from their children.
Oh, God.
People to pay me back.
Got it. Because she's so nice, right? She's a published author, and we know that. She's spoken to our clubs about books she's written in the past. She joined Rotary in August of 1999. She was club president in 2014. That's when I joined Rotary, so she was my first president. She's our club's foundation chair and webmaster, thank God, for the webmaster part. On the district level, she's an assistant governor, and she was the district conference chair, if you remember, when our own John Padgett was a district governor. With that, I would like to introduce Joey and Seeger to share with you our amazing trip to Italy.
So this trip started when I was, I got a thing from the Norfolk Botanical Garden saying, we've got this wonderful trip coming to Italy. And immediately, without doing any kind of due diligence, which is outside the realm of a commercial banker, I said, I want to go. I want to go. So I sent out a message to 3 of my friends and said, anybody interested in this? And one of them, Pat, said that afternoon, yes, I want to go. So we signed up. About a week and a half later, a dear friend, Joan, called me and said, oh, I want to go to Italy with you. And it was like, I'm so sorry, I already have a roommate, but let me see if we can find somebody. So I started looking, and Joan was looking in the Dallas area where she lives without any success. And lo and behold, I said to myself, well, Joey Rothgary would be the perfect person to go with Joan, because Joey's a master gardener. Joan loves to work in her garden and is active in the Herb Society in Dallas. So they put together, and one day I knew Pat, I knew Joey, I knew Joan, and the rest of them had no idea about anybody but me. But off we went on this wonderful adventure. So the next slide is of the group that was taken. Oh, I don't know what I do. There it goes. Okay, so this is the wonderful group. It was taken along the way, and we'll talk about the garden where we were that day later. Joey?
We had a special request to make sure we included a couple maps so you would know exactly where we were. And Italy is comprised of 20 regions. The bulk of our trip was up here in the Lombardy region, which is where Lake Como and the whole Lake District is located. And so we started there and spent most of the trip, but then we eventually traveled south to Tuscany, where Florence and the towns around Florence are located that we visited. Part of the group went on to Rome, but Sigur and I did not. Our trip concluded in Florence. And then here's just a quick look at the Lake District. And this kind of fork-shaped looking lake is Lake Como. And if you see these like green, they kind of blend in, but these green dots along the way, those are the various villas and gardens that we stopped at that we'll talk a little bit more about. And of course, our trip up here started in the town of Como itself. And then over here we have Lake Maggiore, and that also has a lot of fabled palaces and villas, and we spent some time over there as well. And then our trip began. Oh, heading the wrong one. There we go.
So our trip began in Milan, and I think when you think of Italy, you think of several things, one of which are cathedrals, otherwise in Italian known as Duomos. You think about shopping, you think about eating, you think about opera, and in Milan we had a combination of all of them. On the top, you see the Duomo in Milan, which is quite a magnificent building. On the bottom, you see the Opera House. One of the things that struck me, I had been with the choir Christ in St. Luke's earlier in the summer in Paris and had a couple of extensive walking tours of Paris with an architect. And the thing that struck me was the parallel between the architecture in Milan and the architecture in Paris. And there was commonality in Napoleon Bonaparte. So he's the one responsible for the height of the sixth floor buildings and also all the tree shaded lanes. But, you know, when we talk about fashion, we had to put in our picture of a piece of eye candy from Milano from the Armani store. He was very happy to let us take his picture. Nope. One of the things that I'm sure everybody wants to see if they go to Milan is the Last Supper. And we did see that in an old church, and the church had been significantly bombed during World War II. And what was very impressive was how they were able to save the famous painting from any destruction by sandbags and that sort of thing. On the next picture, we have just a building that was in Milan with some old statuary on the outside of old men. And then on the right-hand side is a picture of the last work of Michelangelo that was well underway when he left Milan. Then we ate very, very well. So these are some pictures from eating. And I want you to look at the waiter who is wearing Italian suspenders.
When we left Milan, we traveled to Como. We didn't spend the night there, but we proceeded up to a town along Lake Como that Sigur will tell you about shortly. But our first day, we had the morning free. So the four of us, became known as the Carolina Girls, which I did not object, although I was in a minority, so I didn't object, even though I'm a loyal Hokie. but we had the morning off, and we took a water taxi or ferry to the town of Chernobyl. And it's a small, rather quaint town, has a small shopping district, but it was just delightful to see, what a small Italian town along Lake Como is like. We spent a fair amount of time actually at the post office. There are wonderful things to say about Italians and Italian food and Italian art, but speed is not always one of their strong suits. But we had a wonderful half day in Chernobyl. And then that same afternoon, we visited our first villa. And this is Villa Carlotta. And this is on the shores of Lake Como. It was built in the late 17th century by a Milanese nobleman. It passed hands several times to include the president of a Napoleonic republic and also a Prussian princess. The government of Italy took it over during World War I. It has a very impressive collection in the museum buildings itself. But of course, we were anxious to get out in the gardens. At least I was anxious to get out in the gardens, and we saw some beautiful, beautiful trees there and other plant materials. But being our first stop, all of a sudden we entered this huge, tremendous camellia garden. Of course, it wasn't blooming in September, but I'm thinking, why do I feel like I'm at home? And this was the first realization that actually the climate in this section of Italy is very similar to Virginia and is in fact the same hardiness zone, 8A. So over the course of our trip, it was fascinating to see many southern magnolias. We saw crepe myrtles and a number of plants that grow here as well. Beautiful vistas from this villa, absolutely beautiful. The section of the lake between this villa and where we were staying is another well-known residence that we passed on the water taxi, on the ferry. And that was George Clooney's villa, which for some reason I always thought it was going to be up high up in the hills looking over, but it's not. It sits right down on the lake. And the everyday water taxi up and down Lake Como passes right by here. So of course we had to enjoy that, and we could pretend that we saw George, although we never did.
Our next stop was at Bellagio, and it's a lovely town. And I think that a lot of people that go to Lake Como have it on their list of places they have to go. And I would highly recommend it. It is a very hilly town, as one would expect if you are in the Italian Alps. And I got to tell you, we walked 6 to 8 miles a day. So if you were worried about us gaining weight, not to worry, we walked it all off. But here's a view of some flowers and also of one of the street views. And then it has a little marina area. And so here's a picture of 4 of us. My friend Joan is on the left, and then Pamela from Florida is next to Joey, and then me. And then here are 4 of us. The one in the orangey yellowish shirt is my friend Pat. And along the viewway in Bellagio, they had these lovely flowers and tree-lined streets. After we spent some time in the city of Bellagio, we actually went to the Villa Melzi Gardens, which was just a delightful place. It was very different than the first garden we went to in that it had more open space and more statuary out in the gardens. There was a lot of statuary inside the house at Villa Carlotta, but in the gardens here. Here's a picture I think you probably recognize. Michael in the middle, and there's on the left-hand side is Jason and Joey. And one of the unique trees is the wedding cake tree, which is on the far right. And on the left-hand side upper thing is an overhead view of the garden, which was lovely. Here are 2 of the trees in the garden and one of the statues. and then some Italian sweets that we thoroughly enjoyed.
I forgot to mention when I was showing the map that any mountains or foothills that you see in these photographs are the Italian Alps, which are just north to this entire district. Our next stop was Villa Taranto, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, but Italian I did not pick up while I was there. These were botanical gardens. There's no villa or house to tour, but just beautiful, beautiful botanical gardens that are now have moved from Lake Como, and these are located on the western shore of Lake Maggiore. And these gardens were established in 1931 by a Scotsman, and he named it for a relative or an ancestor of his who had been named the Duke of Toronto by Napoleon. And a lot of Scottish influence on these gardens. But I think, whoops, back to the sweets. One of the most really breathtaking areas of this garden we hit on first, and that was just acres of dahlias. And they were just breathtaking dahlias gardens there. And I think you can see the 18 of us huddling around with our cameras taking pictures of dahlias. It was a bit much, but it was really quite a treat. Just numerous varieties. I'm responsible for the tree shots in this presentation. I think like most people, I probably took 1,000 photos. Almost probably 30% of them were food, 30% are trees, and then the remaining is the other general sites of the area. But there were some spectacular trees at these gardens. It had some formal aspects to it, and then some native woodland areas as well. And we all love this. These are water lilies. But this particular variety is really the largest in the world. They're not native to Italy. They're from the tropical areas around the Amazon, but they were just fabulous and were quite breathtaking. On the same day, right after this, we traveled first to the town of Stresa, which is on Lake Maggiore, for lunch. And then we took a boat launch to the island of Isabella. And this is quite a phenomenal site. If you get to this part of Italy, it's certainly a must. The palace was started in the 1600s by Carlo III of the Bononia. I had it in the car. I had it right. I'm not going to try to say it. A famous family in North Italy in honor of his wife, Isabella, that it's named after. The palace and the gardens are a treasure chest of Baroque art, in particular, suspended over the water. This, like other places that we saw, were designated that Napoleon slept here. So a lot about Napoleon through our trip, and he in fact slept here. The gardens were started in 1671. And one of the main features that was just so striking was the lovely stonework, all done painstakingly by hand. We also saw a similar stonework at the Boboli Gardens in Florence and at the Villa Mazzoni that you'll hear about later. And here are just a few shots to show you the entire island is indeed the palace, and the gardens quite breathtaking, very formal in most areas. With this is looking down into the gardens, and the two of us with some stonework. There were white peacocks all just roaming loose all over the property. So a favorite photo shot for just about everyone. And here's an example. This is like in the theater area, but this massive stonework at the end of the island that we could all climbed up. And in fact, we did. And we're at least halfway up that, the three of us. And we do want to go on record that the three of us declared at a Rotary meeting, and we sang the first verse of ROTAR1.
Next stop was at the Villa Mazzoni, and that is where the picture of the group was from for the first shot that you saw. It's a lovely place. Has been owned by the same family since the 1400s. And the tale behind this is that one of the principals of Florence was up, or maybe it was Milan, was visiting, and he was attacked by a bear. And the family's hunting dog saved the Count from the ultimate death that he was facing. So he gave the property to the family, and they built this house. And it's, when you compare it to some of the other places that we saw, the house is not particularly grand, although it is certainly lovely in its own way. Family still lives there. The gardens were nice. And here are two of my favorite pictures. One is with Michael, with the owner of the property, and about a week later he got married. And the one on the right-hand side is Michael's mother with one of the waiters. This was at lunch. And a shot of the gardens on the left, a shot of lunch at dinner time, at dessert time. And on the upper right-hand corner is a picture of the ceiling. And then here is a cat. And I have to tell you, I think somebody's just earned a fine. Anyway, a cat is on the lower right, and Michael has a real aficionation with animals. You will see him pictured with a dog later, but he made friends with this cat also. And then we went on to Maltrasso. Well, that was really the town in which we stayed. And we stayed at the Grand Hotel Imperial, which was lovely. And here's a picture of four of us peeking over the sign outside of it. And on the far right, you'll see that we got photobombed by an Italian guy. And then here's some shots of the town, which is on the water. And it goes, as most of these towns do, almost straight up the mountain. And then there was this long walk up the top, not to the total top of the hill, but far enough up that we decided to walk it. And when I say we, I'm talking Joey, me, and Michael's mother. So we had a lovely view at the top. And here's another view of the walk we walked up. And some sights that we saw along the way. A little stream coming down on the left. There was a kitten sitting on top of a motorcycle. And then there were the cemetery of Maltrasso. So Michael has a thing about Versace. And Versace was buried in this particular cemetery. So he and Jason are in the cemetery trying to find the gravesite of Versace. And meanwhile, Joey and I and Michael's mother are on top of the hill, and he spots us and we wave down, hello, hello. And he sees us and thinks, oh my gosh, they're going to get lost. So he starts his way up the mountain, up the opposite route. And meanwhile, we decide, well, it's time that we come down. So we wandered down the other way. So Michael's sitting there going, I lost my mother. How am I going to do that? And what am I going to tell our fellow Rotarians when I tell them that I lost Sigurd and Joey? But we weren't lost. We knew exactly where we were. And oh yes, we did find the grave site. It had been in a family crypt, but it had actually been moved to the family property. So we saw it in the crypt there. And we enjoyed dining in Maltrasso. On the bottom right is a picture of the four of us sitting there. And this couple of these pictures, like the one on the bottom left, was, I think, from that dinner on that outdoor terrace where we had truffles, thank you. But Joey decided to strike out on her own, and she ordered a fish dinner that was the special of the day, that she asked for it to come with rice. Well, it came with potatoes. Well, she didn't order the one with potatoes. She ordered the one with rice. So the waiter was not very accommodating and said, eventually somebody else came over, would you like rice? Well, yeah, I would. So she got charged for the rice. And then one of our favorite things in Miltrasso was the 4 Coke bottles that we found at lunch one day. And if you look, and I'll take the example of the one from the left, which is Naples, you will see a pizza on the hat. So each of the different things had something that the town was famous for, such as Rome had the Colosseum. And once again, we had fabulous food when we were at Miltrasso. And here are just some more pictures. And on the bottom right-hand side is gelato, one of the famous things from Italy. From there, we went,
So we left Lake Como area and headed to Florence. And this was one of the stops. We stopped at the town of Parma, which is of course famous for Parmesan cheese. But we also stopped and had a balsamic vinegar tasting, which I don't know that any of us had before. I've had olive oil tastings in Italy, and we've all had wine tastings everywhere. So this was a first, balsamic vinegar. And this was a family-owned business and had been in the family for generations. This was in the Modena district between Lombardy and Tuscany. And so this is the area of Italy that is known for fine balsamic vinegar. And indeed, I think I learned that there's what you buy in the grocery store, and then there's the real stuff. And this is the real stuff. So we just had a marvelous time tasting and many of us purchasing balsamic vinegar. Of course, this was, you know, I'm not a dog person, but this was a wonderful dog. And so Michael, he bonded with Michael. So we had a lot of fun this particular stop. And then we took a day trip out of Florence, and Lucca is a delightful town. It's like kind of due west, a little northwest of Florence. This is one of the town squares. And then here, aren't these wonderful columns that are on the St. Martin's Cathedral right in the town square. And again, some beautiful trees in Lucca as well. There was a kind of a, you know, you've seen jugglers or street entertainers. Well, we had a bubbler. And so he was delighting the kids and adults alike. It was starting to rain a little bit, but he just had filled up the square with these beautiful, beautiful bubbles. Oops. Just a couple of residences. It was a charming town, small, windy little streets, beautiful homes and shops. We had a delightful lunch in a big, it was like an arena area that it was the Italian version of a food court, but it was just charming. As we were leaving town, we were walking through these small streets heading back to our bus. And our tour guide pulled me over. His name was Massimo. He pulled me over to this food market, and he pointed out these zucchini blossoms, fresh zucchini blossoms in this market. And he was telling me that, you know, that they're in season, you know, and this was a wonderful local dish. And I thought, wow, I don't know, maybe I'm sheltered. I'd never heard of eating zucchini blossoms, but had to take a photo of it. Well, lo and behold, at dinner that night, wonderful restaurant that the hotel recommended in Florence, what was on the menu? Fried zucchini blossoms. So this was our delightful dish. It was just wonderful. And it was just so great to have that served the same day that we'd seen it in the market. From Lucca, we stopped at Villa Reale, and this is not far from Lucca. It was purchased in 1806 by Napoleon Bonaparte's sister, Eliza Bonaparte. And it was her official residence when she was the Duchess of Lucca. She was Grand Duchess of Tuscany and was truly considered a really admirable leader. She was noted for her management leadership style and was in fact the governor of Tuscany during this era. Just have a few photos here, but really extensive grounds. We spent quite a lot of time just walking around on the grounds. The residence is being restored, and so we did poke in there for a few minutes, but mainly just on the grounds. Delightful, delightful trip.
Yet more food. So one night we had the Florence specialty, which is basically steak in the style of Florence. And the steak you see on the upper left-hand corner, it was huge. It was like 5 pounds of steak for 4 gals. But not only did we get the steak, but we got the salad on the far right. We've got the pasta on the upper right. And then we had breadsticks on the lower left and dessert on the lower right. It was a fabulous meal, but well over the top. I think I can say I've done it once and that will be it. We intentionally did not include pictures of Florence in this presentation. The day was not the best of days. It was misty, overcast, and we spent an awful lot of time walking through the streets of Florence, and we went to the famous Boboli Gardens. And if any of you have not been there, it's a sight worth seeing, but we made the decision not to include that in the film. So the last day we were in town, we wanted to do something different. And by we, I mean the 4 girls. And so we asked the guy at the hotel, well, what would you recommend? And he would say, well, I think you ought to go see the Boboli Gardens. No, we've already been there. Well, I think you need to do this. No, we've been there. And so he finally said, there's this little town a short distance outside of Florence by the name of Fiesole, and you could go there. And we said, okay. So we took a cab, and it was it's basically a suburb, but it's up in the hills, and we had a delightful time. There's Joey and me, and we had lunch at a little restaurant which overlooked this garden, which had a little stage in it. And this was in the town square. The sculpture on the right-hand side is of Garibaldi and Vittorio Emanuele. And Garibaldi is credited with the unification of Italy, while Vittorio Emanuele was the king of Sardinia and became the first king of the United Italy. And this was on our walk up the hill, which was quite a substantial walk. But we went up to basically an old monastery, which was lovely, and the views were tremendous. And if you look at the right-hand side, down below is Florence. That night, we went to our final dinner, which was at a winery, and we went to Greve and Chianti. And so on the left-hand side, you see the group gathered for dinner. On the right-hand side is me and Joey. On the far right lower part is their sign outside. And in the middle is Michael and Jason and his mother. And I want to call attention to Michael's outfit. Now, I mentioned early on that he had to chase the graveside of Versace. Well, he also happens to love Gucci. In fact, Michael is quite the shopper. You probably don't know this, but we do, that he oftentimes will take an empty suitcase on trips and fill it up. So he was busy shopping as we were visiting, touring. He did tour with us mainly, but in our free time, we knew where we could find him. So he is all dressed up in his Gucci outfit. And with that, we said goodbye to our lovely group, wished them arrivederci. Y'all have any questions?
Were those magnolias in the first place you went, were they imported from America or are they indigenous? The first building you were in.
They were Magnolia grandiflora.
Collected and
Yeah, yeah.
brought in.
Brought in.
From the US?
Yeah, a lot of the gardens we saw were estate gardens, so things were brought in as specimen or, to enhance the estate. They were very proud of their azaleas, we would call them azaleas. Again, imported, a lot of stuff brought in, just like here. I mean, most of the landscaping around our own homes is not native. It's stuff we brought in. But it was amazing to see how similar a lot of the plant materials, like to see crepe myrtle trees in Lake Como.
Yeah.
You couldn't get over it. Sycamore, London plane tree.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. They did some of these large gardens, some of these large botanical gardens certainly had specimens that we're not accustomed to, just like our Norfolk Botanical Garden has tree specimens that don't grow commonly, in the region. But so much of the plant material, and especially what was blooming, because it was September, so it wasn't like spring. We expected to have a profusion of color, but there was plenty of color. And a lot of what we saw was familiar, but some of the trees that were specimens in these botanical gardens were quite spectacular. And of course, the age on them, they were older trees than maybe what we would see here in the US in a botanical garden.
Any questions from Zoom world?
I don't see any. Any questions for the people on Zoom? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Joey and Sigger. We really appreciate it. Given that our club is very interested in literacy, a book will be presented to Chesterfield Academy commemorating your speech with us today. With that, our next meeting will be next Tuesday, October 13th. It will be a Zoom meeting, so you'll be getting an invitation for that. Our speaker will be Tina Gill, the president and CEO of the Up Center. Also wanted to let folks know that our next board meeting will be next Monday, the 12th. So if you're interested in attending, just let me know. With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for joining us both in person and on Zoom. I hope this was a good way for us to do this, and we'll see about putting it together again. So thank you, and we are adjourned.